Highlighting the principles that work for you.
Thank you for joining Forward, Upward, Onward together. My name is Carey Turnquist and I'm your host. Today we tackle issues surrounding hunger. Prior to the pandemic, there were many families struggling to feed themselves. And the problem has only exacerbated as joblessness increased, lockdowns were instituted, and the novel coronavirus took hold in our society. And so today we speak with Keisha Ellis, the Executive Director of Hands for Hunger, one of the leading institutions tackling this vexing problem of hunger today. So Keisha, thank you so much for joining us for Forward, Upward, Onward together.
Hi, Carey. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you. So for those who may not know, tell us, what is Hands for Hunger?
Hands for Hunger is a humanitarian organization that was launched 12 years ago at this point. And, our thing is the reduction of food waste and unnecessary hunger in the Bahamas. So you may have seen our trucks on the road. Ordinarily, what we do is collect fresh surplus food from hotels and restaurants, and then distribute that to agencies that feed people in need. Of course, hotels and restaurants haven't actually been operating since the pandemic really hit Nassau, in the Bahamas. So we've switched focus, but our goals have remained the same. How are we going to get as much food as possible out there into the community to people who need it?
Very important. That's a very critical goal. And food waste is so important. We do have a whole lot of disparity in our society today between those who have just so much and that goes in the garbage, and frankly those that don't have enough to feed themselves. You mentioned something that was very interesting. It's about food waste. And where does a lot of this food waste come from, where you procure a lot of your food?
Well, you know what? I think that food waste, even though it's still any food being wasted is too much as far as we're concerned. But you know what? It really was a logistics problem. When we first launched Hands for Hunger, once we contacted hotels and restaurants and said, hey, what do you do with the extra food? We found that, the answer was we throw it away. But that wasn't because they didn't want to give it out. It was because they didn't have the capacity to store the food and then deliver it. Who are they going to take it to? Are they going to hire someone to deliver it? So once Hands for Hunger stepped in and said, hey, we'll do that for you, they were happy. They were more than happy to share it, right? So I think what we're finding is that even though there is a significant amount of food being kind of thrown away, food that can be used, it's not because people don't want to share it. It's a logistics problem. It's about, okay, how do we work a little bit harder to make sure that people who have surplus food can get it to the people who need it? And one of my favorite things about Bahamians is that we don't actually waste that much food. Have you ever been to a party and seen any food in the garbage? No, we pack that food up and we take it and we eat it. So that's right. Something about the Bahamian culture that I admire. And what I found is that we are a compassionate people. We do care about our neighbors. And so Hands for Hunger, we just come in to kind of help you logistically. Hey, here's how we can help you not throw away so much food. And local businesses have always been fully responsive to that. Even during the pandemic, even restaurants, your business is cut by half or even 3/4. They still find ways to say, hey, but I have this pan of rice. Can Hands for Hunger come and collect it?
I've seen your trucks and your cars on the road, the green logo, Hands for Hunger. And so I could definitely see the logistics at work, as you say. You all are able to provide a framework that you're able to tell the restaurants, hotels, other businesses to say, come and collect this food. And you seem to make it very easy for businesses to help.
Absolutely. That's what we aim to do.
I've seen the lines just around town at food banks around the island, really since the pandemic. But I really wanted to know, what was the hunger situation like? And tell our viewing audience what the hunger situation was like prior to the pandemic.
It's always been I think for a lot of people who don't kind of work in this field day in and day out, it's always a bit surprising when we say that, we've done studies, we've done surveys on this, and based on, our community partners, we've always found that it's been about 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 Bahamians that suffer from food insecurity, and that runs on a spectrum. So it's, just worrying about not having enough food to eat. You're maybe eating lunch, but you're like, maybe I should save some of this for dinner, or maybe I should save some of this to take home for my family, right? So that's kind of the beginning of food insecurity, and that stretches all the way down to, I have no food, I have no hope of getting food. What do I do, right? So we found that it was about 1 in 4 Bahamians who suffered some level of that food insecurity, and that's not a small number. But of course, since the pandemic and since, so much of our economy has shut down, what we found, the biggest change is that most people, because of the way our society is structured, if I'm hungry, I could usually go by my aunt's house or go by my sister or go to the neighbor. But now what we're realizing in the pandemic is that, no, my aunt is also hungry. My neighbor is also hungry. And so you have, maybe there's one son and he's employed, right? But what statistics don't take into account is that one son is, giving his aunt a couple dollars every week or giving his mother a couple dollars every week. So even though it may look like, okay, only this one son is unemployed, we don't realize that unemployment has now affected, maybe 3 or 4 different households. So that's really been the key difference in food insecurity in the Bahamas now. It's that the safety net that existed in our community has really kind of dissolved now that so many people are out of work.
And I think that the 1 in 4 is a very scary statistic, that there's so many people who really, as you say, are food insecure, who don't know if they're going to have 3 solid meals a day or if there's no real hope of getting a meal at all. And so that's really startling. And I would also imagine that also impacts the sort of choices that they make. If you're not hungry, it's hard for a child to learn. If you're hungry, or unsure about where you're going to get your meal, it's hard for someone to focus at work. It's hard for someone to show affection in their family. How have you found that hunger has affected other aspects of, or your studies have shown, how hunger is at other aspects of life?
Well, that's one of the conversations that Hands for Hunger sought to have with some of our programming. So I'm not sure if you were familiar with our Dine on the Line campaign. And that's when we challenged the public to, the statistics that was done by the Department of Statistics, the household expenditure survey, the data is old now, we admit that, but it's still the best data that we have. That study indicated that $4 a day was how much people right on the poverty line, that's how much they had a day to spend on all of their meals. $4, that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So we launched the Dine on the Line campaign, where we encouraged our audience to kind of see what you can do with $4 a day, right? And this wasn't, to kind of make light of the situation that so many people, 40,000 to be exact, people in the Bahamas find themselves facing every day. But it was to have these conversations. If I know that I don't have dinner at home and I have no hope of getting dinner, how does that change my personality? How does it affect all of those things that you mentioned, Carey? And these are the kinds of conversations that we encourage people to have on social media and in offices and in schools. And what we found is that, food is at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy for a reason, because it's the foundation. It's what you need. Everything else that you can hope to succeed in really rests upon, just having enough food, and also not having to worry about having enough food.
Yeah, so you touched on it quite a bit, Keisha, that before someone may be able to go to an aunt's house or to a relative's house for something to eat pre-pandemic. However, with the joblessness really increasing exponentially over the past 6-7 months, that kind of support system really isn't there. And so how have you had to ramp up your support in Hands for Hunger just to accommodate the level of food insecurity since the onset of the pandemic?
So we kind of hit the ground running. And one thing I'm really proud about with our organization is how quickly we've been able to adapt. Right. So once we started realizing that, okay, coronavirus, which we were calling it way back in March, right? So once we realized that the coronavirus was about to hit our shores, we started kind of redirecting our efforts. Right. So we made sure that we gave all of our agencies pantry items that were non-perishable, so that we can kind of keep them stocked up, because we weren't sure what was going to happen. Right. So we distributed as much non-perishable items as we could. Another thing that we did was we reached out to individuals, right? Through our fundraising efforts, we were able to get enough funding to provide assistance for about 500 families for 12 weeks, right? So we had 500 families that we were able to distribute digital vouchers to. And this is something else that we were excited about. We realized that, hey, okay, people are going to be at home. We're not encouraging people to kind of leave their houses and, to go other places other than grocery shopping or something like that. So we were able to distribute food vouchers digitally. And that was something that we were really excited about. So that was 500 families that we were able to support in that program for 12 weeks. And then once the government launched the National Food Distribution Task Force, we were happy to join forces with that entity. So as a member of that task force, we're able to even to extend our reach even further. So now we're actually assisting closer to 6,000 families with food boxes and vouchers each week.
That's tremendous. So really, you increased your capacity to serve, am I understanding this right? Like 12-fold just over the past 7 months?
Yeah, it's really been an exciting ride for us, because prior to the pandemic, we really focused on supporting our agencies. We have about 20 agencies around New Providence, and these are soup kitchens and distribution centers that are really embedded in communities. So before the pandemic, our focus was supporting them. We would reach out to them. What do you need? How can we help you better serve your community? But once we realized that, these soup kitchens aren't really allowed to operate, or we don't really want to encourage that kind of community gathering the way we did in the past, we realized, okay, now we need to step in and be the support that we usually got from the agencies. So yeah, that's when we started reaching out to individuals and really directly going out and finding out who needs help and helping them directly.
So what's served there for those who may not know? What would be served at one of these community organization? Is there a focus on nutrition? At a lot of soup kitchens?
You mean, of course, in pre-COVID times, because their soup kitchens aren't operating the way they used to. But yeah, food that was served is, it depends on what's available, of course. But yeah, there's standard Bahamian food, right? So breakfast, grits, corned beef, tuna, things like that. And Hands for Hunger, the kinds of food that we were able to donate, it really varied across the board. So of course we have excellent partners like Atlantis that provided us all of the surplus food they had from their conventions or from their buffets, right? So sometimes we were dropping off literal racks of lamb to our community partners to distribute, and the same goes for some of the other restaurants that we were working with. Sometimes we had some, gourmet food that we were distributing. Other times, there were a lot of standard kind of rice and macaroni and stuff like that. And we're also able to deliver treats, right? Because just because people are food insecure doesn't mean that they don't deserve to have a donut. You know what I mean? So Dunkin' Donuts, another one of our big partners, they gave us donuts to make sure that we were able to drop those off to the children's homes that we work with. So, the food that we distributed really, covered the spectrum of the highest end to kind of staple as well as dessert.
That's terrific. It's good to be nutritious, but you also have to have some comfort food as well.
Absolutely.
Particularly in times like this. People, you gotta love a donut. When you're a little bit stressed out. Terrific. Tell us a little bit about how the public has supported you in the past, and really how the public can ramp up its support and help Hands for Hunger.
We are what we are because of the public, right? So like I said, our entire model is collecting food from local organizations and distributing it. And as a nonprofit organization, we're able to achieve that because the community believes in us, right? Everything that we do is funded through donations that individuals make to us. So we are fully dependent on just the community, the public believing in the work that we do. That's how we're able to continue our work. Like I said, as members of the task force, we're happy that we're able to access the funds that the government has allocated for feeding. So we are happy to kind of help spread that, and that's how we've been able to reach 6,000 families. But outside of that, and especially when the government decides that the task force is no longer the best route for them, we know that we're still going to be here. We're still going to be here, dedicated to feeding as many people as possible, just as we have been for the past 12 years. And so we always encourage the public, if you like the work that we're doing, if you believe in the work that we do, you can jump on our website. So that's handsforhunger.org/donate. And that's the best way for you to kind of support the work that we're doing. And right now, we actually have a program going. We got, we partnered with a really generous anonymous donor, and they've decided to help us with a matching program. So we're able to provide a food box that contains fresh fruits and vegetables, meats, fish, bread, really fresh, hearty food. We're able to provide a box that's enough to feed a family of 4 for a week for $50. So right now we're asking people to sponsor a box for a family. You know, for every $50 that's donated by the public, we have a sponsor that'll match it. So right now is the best way. If you do have extra money to donate to a good cause, right now, if you donate to Hands for Hunger, your donation will be matched. So you'll be able to help 2 families where ordinarily you may only be able to help 1. And all that information is found on our website, handsforhunger.org/donate, or of course on our social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're Hands for Hunger everywhere.
Terrific. You know, it just sounds so good that so many people have partnered with you really to make it happen. You know, not only is that just a box, but we have to think of that as really a family that's being fed, and a family that's being able to go to sleep at night on a full stomach. Kids that are able to learn properly virtually because, you know, there's food in their house. And so that's really tremendous work that could be done. You talked also about how businesses have supported as well, how a lot of the big hotels, restaurants, even Dunkin' Donuts have helped and given a lot of their food. What more can businesses do to really help eradicate and reduce hunger, particularly in these difficult times?
I mean, that's a hard question, right, for businesses, because the economy, I mean, really has just taken a turn that no one really could have foreseen. But I think that what we like to see is for businesses that are currently operating, we always encourage them to encourage their employees to host a food drive for us. That's a little thing that really goes a long way. So we've had organizations kind of get the whole office together and say, you know what, we'll have a competition, red team against blue team, or sales against production, or something like that, and who can collect the most canned goods for Hands for Hunger. And that's always a fun way that organizations can kind of get into the giving spirit. And at the end of the day, you know, we know that the food is going to use. Other than that, corporate sponsorship is also always a great way to show that your organization gives back to the community. So we have organizations that donate to us financially, as well as canned goods. And of course, if you are an organization that serves food and you find yourself in a position where you have surplus, you can give us a call. You can send us a message on Facebook or Instagram, and we're happy to send the truck to collect the food. And I always tell people, we will come for a pan of rice. We will come for a tray of macaroni. Don't feel like you have to give us enough food to feed 500 people for us to think it's worthy. Every little bit counts, and every little bit goes towards someone who otherwise wouldn't have it.
That's terrific. You know, I think those are some great ideas how businesses can help. And, you know, not only is it good to help Hands for Hunger, but it also develops team spirit, engagement, and camaraderie within the business. And so it's really a win-win for the business. Giving back to the community, they feel good about it. You're able to help the community, and as well as to develop great level of engagement within the organization. So those are some terrific suggestions. A few months ago, my wife assisted with, and she was a volunteer with Hands for Hunger, and she spoke about what a rewarding experience it was. And so if someone is interested in becoming a volunteer with Hands for Hunger, how do they just jump on board? She jumped on a truck and she was able to go around to several businesses and to collect some pans of, I think it was, there was some really expensive, from the, canned goods to very expensive, like lobster that was left over from some buffet somewhere. So how do people get involved if they really just wanted to get involved in the minutia of eradicating hunger with Hands for Hunger?
We love our volunteers at Hands for Hunger. We actually have a volunteer Facebook page. So if you search on Facebook for Hands for Hunger volunteers, you'll see a volunteer group there, as well as on our main Facebook page and Instagram, of course. And the thing is, volunteers make our wheels go around. There are actually 4 full-time employees at Hands for Hunger. Right, so there are 4 of us that are full-time. So all of these amazing things that I'm talking about, these take place because we have a crew of volunteers who believe in our work. Unfortunately, since the start of the pandemic, we scaled back a lot on our volunteer opportunities just because we want people to be safe. Firstly, and foremost, we want to make sure that people are safe. So we're really encouraging people to not gather in large groups if you don't have to. But we know that we will be back in business soon. So please, let us know on social media that you want to be a volunteer, as well as you can sign up directly on our website. So if you go to handsforhunger.org/volunteer, there's a form right there where you can fill out. Let us know that you're interested. You can even tick kind of the areas of expertise that you have, because volunteering isn't only packing boxes for us. Sometimes it's helping us with communication. Sometimes it's actually helping us drive the truck. So there are a lot of ways that you can help. So even if you know that, hey, packing boxes isn't really my thing, check out our website, and I'm sure that you'll find a way that you can give back to our organization.
Just terrific. Really great suggestions to help as well. Quick question for you. Are there any opportunities to expand to the Family Islands, or is that in the future at all? I know that working with NASA is a mammoth task in and of itself. But how about the extension?
Yes is my official answer. We absolutely have plans to expand to the Family Islands. The difficult thing is, though, we just don't have the capacity for that yet. And we are growing. We definitely know that's what we want to do. And with your support, with the support of the public, we know that we'll get there. But the thing about Hands for Hunger is we are not huge proponents of the one-time assistance kind of thing. You know what I mean? We've done that in the past where we've sent pallets of food to Andres and Eleuthera. And we do enjoy doing that, and we know that that food is appreciated. But generally speaking, if we start helping a community or a group, we like that assistance to be able to go on for, indefinitely, or for at least a few. Exactly, at least for the long run. So we know that in the background, our wheels are turning. We're definitely thinking about the best way we can expand into the Family Islands. But the thing is, once we do it, we know that we are going to do it in a way that's sustainable and in a way that actually provides as much assistance as possible. So, Carey, yes, we definitely plan to. We want to. But especially now with things being so kind of up in the air with everything globally, we know that right now is not the best time for us to commit to that, unfortunately.
So Keisha, where you sit, you really run the gamut from speaking with government officials to elite private donors to really touching and speaking with the family who's accepting the food at the end of the day. And one of your goals in Hands for Hunger is to reduce national food insecurity. What does that look like in the future to you? I would imagine that there's some economics involved, some government intervention, private sector assistance. What does that look like to you?
Carey, that's a big question. And you know what? I think what that looks like, is cooperation. That's really the best way for me to answer that, because there's no one single group that's going to have all the answers or all the knowledge, right? Hands for Hunger, we have a very particular knowledge base, and we're happy to offer as much assistance as we can in that area. But we also have to work with farmers, right? The farmers and the fishermen, they are key components to national food insecurity, as well as business owners and, you know, banks. This really has to be a group effort. And you know what, if we can discuss what a silver lining is, right, in a global pandemic, I think that this is definitely it. The idea that, oh, wait, we are all in this together. Oh my goodness, we are all connected, right? Globally as well as locally, right? If you know, we needed a wake up call, here it is. We're all connected. We all have to look out for each other if we're going to make it, you know? And I think that I'm seeing so much of that it really kind of reinvigorates the optimism that I always have anyway, that, hey, we are going to see different sectors come together, and we're each going to introduce the things that we can, and we're going to share the knowledge in the way that we can, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure that people get enough food, or that people are able to grow the food that they need, or people are able to find the food that they need. I know that, you know, people are already putting their heads together trying to figure out, you know, how are we going to make sure that we're not in this situation again? And you know what, I'm really looking forward to the solutions that we come up with locally as well as internationally. You know, one thing to remember is that there is enough food on the planet for everyone, but it really is a logistics problem, right? The trouble really is getting the surplus food to the people who need it, you know. And I think that right now around the world, countries and businesses and citizens around the world are really saying, okay, you know, we really got to join hands a little bit better than we have done in the past, just to make sure that we don't leave anyone behind in the future.
You know, as you said earlier, that we have this Bahamian heritage of collaboration and really leaning on one another for support. And the only way that we're going to make it work, as you said, is if different groups of people are able to collaborate and to really move towards food security. This is an opportunity for a hard reset that, you know, in the COVID-19 pandemic. And as you say, we could make it happen. It's really just a logistics problem. You all are solving great problems in Hands for Hunger. And so I just wanted to congratulate and thank you for the great work that you're doing. As I said earlier, it's not just distributing food, but those are really families that are being fed at the end of the day, that are able to go to bed with a full belly, as we say, that are able to learn, kids that are able to learn, that people are able to go into jobs, you know, really being satisfied. It's the most basic thing that we can do. And it's amazing that we haven't gotten it right yet. You all are getting it right on so many instances. And so we're grateful for it. Thank you. Keep up the great work. And we look forward to supporting you even more. Again, tell us, how could we support you on your Facebook page?
You know what? First of all, as simple as give us a like, give us a follow on social media. You'd be amazed at, you know, what a difference that makes for a nonprofit organization, just kind of getting our name and our message out there. So we're Hands for Hunger everywhere. If you want to drop us a donation, you can do so at handsforhunger.org/donate. And other than that, if you have any questions or queries, if you want to reach out to us for information about the organization, that's info@handsforhunger.org. If you are in need of food assistance, or if you need help kind of figuring out how you can get assistance if you need food, you can send us an email at help@handsforhunger.org.
Keisha Ellis, it was a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you so much for joining us for Hands for Hunger. And thank you, our viewing audience, for watching. Continue to follow our social media pages for RBNTV. Like, share, and subscribe. This is Carey Turnquest, and we'll see you next week.
You're watching